Okay, this is a video for the FiiO FH3. It's a single dynamic driver, 10mm beryllium, and 2 Knowles balanced armatures. It is, in my opinion, the best earphone that FiiO has come up with to this point. I thought that FH5 and the FH7 had traits that were not that appealing to me, and the size and the fit were also not ideal, where this is the perfect size. This is, for my ears, it's great. I can wear big stuff like the ARE Z1R because I depend on the hook and also the tips to kind of create a balance. So the FH7 and the FH5 just didn't quite really do it for me, whereas the FH3 does. And price-wise, it's almost a no-brainer. It's very, very good. The low end, as you would imagine, or maybe not, but I'll tell you that beryllium is something that puts the technical into the equation, because it is something that is stiffening the diaphragm, this right here, and making it so when low frequency hits come, whether it's a 4-string bassist, an authoritative kick drum, a synthesizer, the things that are in my music library, hits hard or hits deep or it extends, it doesn't affect the perception of the mids via a haze or a perceived veil. It doesn't happen to this reviewer's experience with stuff that has beryllium coatings on it. Beryllium A8000 and the Dunu Luna, that's another story. There seems to be a different thing going on, but the foil or the coated PET Mylar drivers, which are the regular and then they have a coating on top, seem to perform quite well in this reviewer's opinion, listening to my library. So that the bass does well is not a surprise. So listening to the drums, For Whom the Bell Tolls, Ride the Lightning, Metallica, just throughout the whole track, it sounded excellent. The shuffle, but Jump On 'Em, Fool in the Rain sounds excellent. The drum play and bass play at 2-minute 30-second, really throughout all of Sweet Leaf by Black Sabbath, sounds good. At no point does it seem to be getting in the way of vocalists in the mids, which always seems to be the Shozy 1.1, I think, does the same thing for me. I believe that's also beryllium. It's just a more, that set right there on top of my ADI 2 DAC is the Thor, which is also beryllium, and it's really good. So I'm a big fan of beryllium. Not every single one that I've gotten seems to do it for me, but there is kind of a pattern there. So I am a fanboy in the same way that I get a Sony, and I think it's probably going to be pretty good. It might not be, but I'm thinking it probably will be. When I get something that's beryllium, I'm thinking it's probably going to be good. It doesn't always turn out that way like Sony's, but I have a positive bias. In this case, I've had this actually for a while. People have been waiting and said, oh, fuck this dude, I'm just going to buy it. They got it already, and they know that the bass on this is excellent. So that's the bass. Let me get into the mids. The mids is where the vocals and a lot of other stuff, the fundamentals are existing. And if the bass was elevated like it is on this set, but it was a regular PET Mylar, you might in fact get that. Some people might call it low res, some people might say kind of a veil. It just seems like everything beyond that significant hit or hits in the low range, everything else comes back because of that in a slightly almost lo-fi sense. And this set doesn't do that. The vocals come through good. Listening to Fleetwood Mac, listen to Jim Croce, listen to everything that I have in my library that's got vocals, including For Whom the Bell Tolls, doesn't seem to suffer. The Michael McDonald and the bass line and Doobie Brothers Taking It to the Street sounds quite good. So the mid clarity on the set is actually very good. The question now is going to be coming in, which is the comparison with L3 and a couple other sets. Again, make it a hybrid, please. Some people have said like IT0. Let's go a hybrid, please. I got the L3 2.1. We got this as the 2.1. We got Shozy, which is a 1.1, or another couple that you can put in there. But let's make it a hybrid, like when we did the YBF and the Belon 03 and the IT00 and the TNT2 Plus, and those are all single dynamics. Let's keep them in their same. I could do another compare later, but let me know in the comment section. So I thought that the mid frequencies on this were excellent. The transition from bass to mids on this, on a graph, which I've already shown in another video, looks quite appealing, and it sounds appealing. Now we get into the treble, which is where this has its, where if I'm going to be critical, and that's what I always try to do, this is where it would be. Listening to something like, let's go. Dun, dun. Aerosmith, No More, No More. The cymbal strike that I'm always talking about and how I expect it to sound. It sounds a little not soft, not muted, not unnatural. It doesn't sound like it's emphasized at the beginning and then cut off. It doesn't sound like there's no beginning to it and there's a kind of a sheen because of the way that the treble is tuned. It just sounds like the volume, which is in fact the case on the graph, is just turned down just a little bit. So cymbals on this, there are 2 points I wrote down here, cons. One is the cable is slightly microphonic for me. I'm always doing stuff where I take the earphones and I drag them over my keyboard, and it's usually something that I don't really notice. But with this cable, maybe because of its thickness or something, I noticed the whole like you can hear the tapping on the cable coming through. So I get microphonics on this cable, and that's not really common for me recently, even on cheaper cables. So I might, this is tight to get out, and it's not a bad cable. I'm a Belon fan. That's garbage. But the Belon didn't give me microphonics, or did it? And I just took it off so quick I didn't know. So this cable has microphonics for me compared to other cables. If you don't have a problem with that, then fine. That would be a con. And the other one would be cymbals sound in the way that you would like it if you would like to listen longer term. So it sounds correct in its birth and its death, but it sounds like its volume is dropped a little bit. And on a frequency graph, which is essentially an amplitude scale, that's what it looks like it should do. So it's not a problem, but if I got to pick some things that I'm noting while I'm listening, and that was one that I noticed, and the track that I was listening to was No More, No More. Also the cymbal strike on Can't Find My Way Home, Blind Faith, Ginger Baker, at exactly 27 seconds. It's very significant. It's sounds normal, which it shouldn't. It should be a little more significant. So that would be the only cons that I can come up with. The cable, which is an easy switch, and I don't even know if I've seen anybody bring that up, but it, because of the way that I review, and I've got my hand DAC across, and I'm constantly sliding the cable across the keyboard, I just never really noticed the microphonic coming back, the feedback of that hitting keys and dragging. I usually don't get it, but I do on this set. Other than those 2 points, the cable microphonics and the cymbals are slightly toned down. It's a excellent presentation. I think it's priced very, very well. There's people out there that have already gotten it, so I'm kind of happy because I'm not the front of the arrow hype person. I showed it and introduced it maybe first, but other people just went ahead and said, I'm not waiting for this dude. Got it, and then they're very stoked, and I can understand why. They might be different than me and prefer the FH5 or the FH7 and think that more money buys you more quality. For this reviewer, I find the FH3 to be the best that FiiO's put out to this point. And I mean that with my library. It doesn't step anywhere. It's the cymbals that are slightly soft, but combine the fit, which is very comfortable and should be something that you really want for long-term listening when you're just going to lay back on the sofa and just tune out, whatever you're listening to, a podcast, Joe Rogan, whatever. That kind of tuning is actually very appealing. It's a good combination of the fit and the comfort, and the tuning is for something that you could use for a long-term travel, whether it's an hour to work on the train or bus. You can block out the world. Isolation seems quite good depending if you use good tips. There's no real vents or openings that are allowing outside sound in, so I think it's a very good set. Bass is very good. I think the transition to the mids is quite good. Drums are excellent. Bass is very good too. Vocals don't seem to suffer any veil, as beryllium I think should do. Treble is toned down slightly. This is a set that is tuned very much like the 64 Audio Neo. And this is a set that I would take over that. Why wouldn't I? That is a bass emphasized smooth replay, and it costs over $1,000. I think it's priced right compared to previous releases, but I can get that with this, and I can pay under $200. I think under $150 if I'm not mistaken, $134 or something like this for this. So there are times where the big money stuff like the UMMEST or the IER Zewenar has its unique, like I need that in my life, and then there's the other stuff, which is most of the expensive stuff that I don't quite agree with its price, but it's like watches and computers. You don't really need 64 gigs of RAM like I got, because all I do is swipe through a music library. and it still crashes sometimes. Dun, 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 dun. So FiiO did a good job. Thank you for sending this to me. I didn't pay anything for it. I've dumped on tons of their stuff, so that doesn't matter. Everybody knows that. Good job, FiiO. Very nice. Worthy investment of your money. Comparison with the L3 and other recs below. Like I said, hybrid, please. And that's cool. Not dynamics, that's a separate thing. So if you want to do a comparison apples to apples, let's do hybrids, because the cohesive connection between the drivers of different type is actually a challenge for the manufacturers to do, and it's something to consider. Dynamics don't have that variable, and I think that's a big variable actually. So let's keep it with the hybrids if you guys want to do a comparison video. Okay, and that's it. Good job, FiiO. Good stuff. If you're an owner, you already know what I'm talking about. If you don't get microphonics, please let me know, because that happens to me rarely, but it happened with this set. Gets the wreck. Good job, and I'm out.